Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. I want you to get me a fresh beer.
You serious?
Now! Now! Holy sir, you son of a bitch!
Hello and welcome into the Beer 30 Dynasty Football Podcast, where we drink and we know Dynasty. I'm your host, Colten. We got Wade with us and Grant with us again today. Go ahead and give them a shout out, boys.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hello, everybody. I am back with a vengeance.
Yeah, we needed you last week. I think we accidentally skipped over the Miami Dolphins running back room. I don't know if we touched on it. Do you remember, Wade?
Pretty sure you did, because you talked about how what's his name was the biggest buy.
Yeah,
I think we just talked about Jalen Wright and Achane just like a tad bit and completely skipped over our old boy Mostert. So, because Grant brought up a good point that Mostert's probably the cheapest buy, but they are right in there. Grant,
See, it's like when I'm gone for 1 week, everybody just forgets about cheap vet RVs, and it's all just to the flashy, shiny young guys.
I guess I just wiped it from the old archive memory when I lost out in the bidding war for Mostert with you.
We need Grant to remind us that old folks play football too. All right, we'll get into the news here because we got a little bit here coming out of camp. So let's go ahead and break that down.
Look, I report the news. That's what I do.
First little bit of news here. Xavier Legette, rookie in Carolina there, injured his foot at training camp. They were slightly concerned for a possible Liz Frank fracture. MRI showed negative, no fractures. It's probably dealing with just a mild foot sprain, and he's considered day-to-day. We've talked about it like last week. You know, rookies that get injured this early and miss some time can just kind of delay their start. So just something to keep an eye on and see when he can get back out onto that field. Next, this one's actually huge for a lot of people. Puka Nacua is week to week with a knee injury. I'm not quite sure what the injury is. I think they said like a bursa sac burst. So Sean McVay kind of came out and talked about it, that he's week to week and that everything, you know, it's not like a major injury, shouldn't hold him out for too long. But as of right now, he's still not practicing. So just something to definitely keep an eye on, with a lot of people drafting him as their wide receiver one in startups, and someone that's a big contributor to your team and coming out early. And a lot of talks out of training camp there is that this offense is running back through Cooper Kupp. So with the fact that it's just given Cooper Kupp even more time to eat and show that he is back to being that wide receiver one, it might cut into Puka's production here a little bit.
And maybe that just cools down his value and his ADP, especially in startups, to a point where it's actually more reasonable. On the flip side, the sweet Cooper Kupp discount might be going away little by little, week by week, as more of this hype starts to build.
I was going to say, if you're going to buy Cooper Kupp, which is a great idea, I'd be doing it right now before it goes into if Puka does get, miss week 1 or week 2 and Cooper Kupp just goes off. So next little bit of news is just some depth chart releases, and I just thought it was funny. Jarrett Stidham and then Zach Wilson is your quarterback 1 and 2 in Denver, and Bo Nix is quarterback 3. Is this just Sean Payton being a turd, just telling him he needs to earn it?
I know Benjamin Albright, Broncos beat reporter, has really been beating the drum on Stidham, like, at least for now, is legitimately QB1. I mean, whether that lasts beyond week 1 or it even makes it to there is one thing, but they're definitely doing the whole vet quarterback to start thing, but I can't see that lasting long.
Yes, I did see him tweeting out several times that Stidham was looking far and away like the QB1 there in training camp.
Yeah, I mean, in a tough division that Denver is in, how long do they have though until people just start screaming to put in the rookie just to give him a shot? So
I mean, Bo Nix isn't exactly a developmental young quarterback either. I mean, the man's 24 years old. If you're drafting him, you better be starting him soon.
Yeah, it's just like in Minnesota, just starting the vet for a little bit or making that rookie kind of work his way and learn a little bit for a couple of games. But at some point, they're going to start during the season. So, all right, next little bit of news. Josh Downs injured his ankle, had to be carted off. just something to keep an eye on. I mean, he was a wide receiver too there. I don't know if much more information, if you guys seen much more come out about this ankle injury or how long has he been out. It just kind of came out that Josh Downs is injured and he's not practicing.
I feel like I've seen maybe about a month. I mean, it looks like it's going to maybe run right up to the start of the season, maybe a little into. So definitely something to keep an eye on because those can be tricky.
Breathe a little bit of breath of life into maybe AD Mitchell, because we'll talk about it, in this podcast. But right now he's fighting with Alec Pierce for wide receiver 3. So, but we'll get into that later. And last part is just my favorite one, because the Jerry Jones and CeeDee Lamb drama, I just had to put it up there because it's something other than Brandon Ayuk drama, and I just thought it was so funny. Jerry Jones in an interview just said, I'm not in a big rush to get the wide receiver contract done. And CeeDee Lamb just comes out and retweets it and puts LOL and deletes every Cowboys and stuff off of his social media. Just so much crap. Especially, it reminds me, like I was talking to you guys earlier, it reminds me of the Jimmer saying Jonathan Taylor stuff that happened last year where he's like, oh, we don't need him. He's not that good. And then they go and give him the bag anyways. Is that what's going to happen here in Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, I think money heals all things. I mean, it's funny, all these different players, the kind of little stuff like this that's went on with the negotiations, and then the deal gets signed and we forget all about it. So in my opinion, yes. I mean, maybe now the piece of news I feel like we need to talk about some is this Ayuk situation, just because there was some pretty large stuff that almost happened with it this week that would have been pretty earth-shattering to the fantasy community. A couple different trades were very close to being done and then were shot down in various ways, mostly by Brandon Ayuk, it seems like. But I know, a potential Ayuk and Amari Cooper swap would have,
I heard it was Cooper, a second and a fifth for Ayuk.
Mm-hmm.
And Ayuk did just not want to go to Cleveland. He didn't want to go to Cleveland. Patriots were offering, I heard, did you guys say $28 million? I know it was close to like 30 mil.
$28.5 million. Yeah.
That's what was reported.
Didn't want that. I'm like, he wants to go to somewhere that can win and also can pay him. And I'm like, all these teams that can win already have that wide receiver. So I don't know what he's wanting to just get the bag from San Francisco is really all it is. And they just aren't budging. So just
pretty much.
The drama continues, man.
I know on that Cleveland, potential trade offer, that could have been, like Grant said, pretty earth shattering, but I would have been big fans for both of those players going to those teams. I think it would have been kind of an even. There could be worse places for Ayuk to land in that situation. Takes over the wide receiver 1 role. I mean, we'll see what Watson ends up doing there, and then Cooper going into that San Fran offense would have been quite nasty. I think
it would have gave Cooper more stability when he hasn't always had that. Last year he had huge booms, and it would have gave Ayuk more of a ceiling just with higher target volume and someone who's been better than Brock Purdy in the past. And I'm not sure he's ever going to be better again, but we will find out with Deshaun Watson.
Was it the money that Cleveland offered him? Because it couldn't have been the win, because Cleveland is a contender. I mean, they have an awesome defense. Their offense hasn't been the greatest, but they've been injury-ridden so much for the last couple seasons. I mean, it had to have been money, because they are up there for contention.
Standing, but I have not heard. I have not seen an offer that they.
Yeah, I just saw the trade package, and then they said Ayuk nixed it and said
no. I mean, because obviously it passed San Francisco's. There's a lot of hoops to jump through there to get any kind of deal done. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, the drama just continues, and we're here for it at this point. It's just a big part of my life, and whenever it gets finished and figured out, I feel like I'm going to have a hole in my heart that will never be filled by all this Ayuk drama.
One tiny more point before we get out of this segment. Got some preseason games fired up the last couple days. Anything there we've seen so far that jumps out to anybody?
I'm sick of the Joe Milton hype. So sick of the Milton hype, man. It's like
you're an absolute nuke, though, dude.
Well, he underthrew him still too. The guy
still a nuke.
open by 10 yards, and he underthrows him. He has to like stop and turn around. I'm like, for the man that's got the cannon, it just underthrows him.
I do think that my takeaway from that game is I think it's quite possible Jacoby Brissett does play a decent amount this year.
Yep.
They seem to be wanting to take it slow with Drake May. Yeah, that's really all I had. I know Eric Gray popped off a little. He's been a name as a depth, zero RB type running back this year. Your boy Jalen Wright, he had a decent game for the Dolphins last night. As we're recording today on Saturday, there's a lot more games happening. So I saw some Jaden Daniels throws from earlier. Obviously got a little Caleb Williams hype going. So
yeah,
JJ McCarthy threw a pretty bad pick today. Saw that one.
So
it wasn't that bad, but a lot of people are harping on him for that one.
Behind the receiver, pretty good. I mean, just let it right out there for the corner, just undercut it. That's pretty not great.
Well, it's going to be overreaction season.
Absolutely. But as someone who I have made it known that, and I've told you guys, I'm not a McCarthy guy. That's not good. So I'll ban
part of being the work in progress is you're not going to be good preseason game one.
Nope, got to be good out the gate.
I feel bad for him too because like right now, Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams both looked fantastic in their debuts. So everyone's comparing them to those two guys, and man, that's just tough because they looked so good. Jaden Daniels had a beautiful ball to Diami Brown.
Which he checked to, by the way.
But it looked beautiful. And JJ McCarthy's, I mean, he's not going to be up to par with those guys. So I feel like he's just getting an even worse rap.
I mean, you could go like 2 for 5 with 13 yards and a pick, which is what CJ Stroud did week 1 of the preseason last year. So
obviously the preseason really matters, and it's extremely indicative of what's going to happen in the regular season.
Well, my favorite, there's a guy on Twitter who tweets out like preseason like snap counts. And whenever there's like somebody above somebody else that's unexpected or guys that are like competing, then people just go nuts and start making rash decisions based off that. So,
before we end that, I will have to throw. I know you're going to love this, Grant. The old Justin Fields preseason debut with the Steelers did not go well.
Fumbled twice.
And as one of his big cheerleaders, Chase Daniel, went back and reviewed the film and said, "Yep. Not good, folks. That's not looking good there."
There's a lot of people that think they're really smart in Dynasty that are saying to go out and buy Fields because he's going to be their starter by the end of the year. I think Russ is going to hold that job until he doesn't, because Mike Tomlin is not going to put up with drive-killing sacks and fumbles.
Do we have our new Marcus Mariota and Justin Fields just going to be the backup journeyman that,
I think that might be a disservice to Mariota, as much as I have liked Fields.
Wow. Coming from you, man. Wow.
Sorry.
Grant finally turned you into a truther.
I
awoke.
I like Fields. I do. He's not it. I think Mariota's a better quarterback. I mean, he's at least done it to an extent.
But I think it will be similar where he'll keep getting jobs based on like the potential. Or
1,000%.
Just the athletic upside or whatever, and never gonna happen.
And like we've said, draft capital follows you. I mean, regardless of what happens, top 15 QB selected, he's gonna get jobs somewhere. Now, the thing that might hold him back is just if he can't ever get any better as a pocket passer. Some people just might not want him as the QB2 because they have to change their system up a little bit. But, I mean, RG3 hung around being backup, so I think he might just be able to fit in that. He might have to develop as like a mentor to some young guys, which that remains to be seen if he'll be able to do that, considering what was coming out of camp last year in Chicago. So we'll see.
I mean, a perfect place would be like Philly, have someone behind Jalen Hurts like that can rush. I mean,
Kenny Pickett's got that on lock.
Oh, yeah. He's the incredible rusher that is Kenny Pickett.
Okay, you see that fake slide?
He had his preseason touchdowns already.
Man, Kenny Pickett better than Justin Fields. Who would have thunk it? All right, let's get into breaking this down. We're going to the AFC South. We'll break it down with the Colts first here. Had to hit the little can opening. All right, and the depth chart here. We got at quarterback Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, Sam Ellinger there. Running backs is Jonathan Taylor, Trey Sermon, Evan Holt, Tyler Goodson, that turd that ruined it all for us. Wide receiver here, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell, Ashton Doolin, Alec Pierce, DJ Montgomery, Anthony Gold. I'm not saying it. Oh, Laquan Treadwell made the roster, huh? Well, that's impressive. I'm done with the names because that's
Did
just
they
names.
move him to tight end?
I swear I had heard that, or somebody
I thought-
was.
Maybe Sleeper
been
hasn't
another
updated
team
the
that-
depth chart yet, but
Somebody
there's a
got
possibility.
somebody along his lines of a player, which
No, I swear it was.
Nikhil Harry is.
okay, maybe that's who it was. Yep.
Nikhil Harry for the Vikings, yeah.
Yeah.
Tall, slow wide receivers. Yes.
So I mean, just a former place that Treadwell played, so I was close.
Pretty much, yeah. And at tight end, we got a whole bunch of names here too. Jelani Woods, Kylan Granson, Will Mallory, Mo Ali Cox. No other names need be said. The Colts here, I mean, we'll start off at the top. Anthony Richardson is getting all of the hype in the world. A lot of analysts coming in saying he could finish as the quarterback one. He has the potential. He played, 2 full games last year. Looked great in him. He did. He looked awesome. He looked like he had the arm. He looked like he could run the ball. He was just the injury factor there is. What are your guys' biggest concerns, I guess I should ask, because the athletic ability and everything's there. It's just, man, he's just building on concerns here.
Yeah, I think there's so much more risk than the fantasy industrial complex wants to admit as they're trying to gas him up. But yeah, I mean the 2.5 games, he did look probably better than my expectations for his lack of overall experience last year, which speaks to how good Shane Steichen is. But yeah, we still don't fully know what he looks like as a NFL passer. And while the rushing gives him the floor, if he really wants to hit that top 5 ceiling, he's got to, be pretty good as a passer. I mean, not just passable, but actually, he's going to have to approach 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns along with the rushing to be able to hit that high ceiling that people are setting for him.
Yeah, week 1 came out the gate, quarterback 4, then quarterback 19, but also got injured that game. Came back week 4, quarterback 2. So in the 2 games that he played full, he finished as quarterback 4, quarterback 2. Neither one of those games were his passing yards that great. He had 223 week 1 and 200 week 4. I mean, I think we're going to have to see a massive uptick in this passing game with him, I think, to remain fantasy relevant, because most of it came out of his rushing and his touchdowns. I mean, week 1, he had 40 yards rushing and a touchdown. Week 4, he had 56 yards and a rushing touchdown. So a lot of it's getting done with his legs. But, I mean, that's also the beauty of having that dual threat quarterback like, a Josh Allen and everything. But if he can figure out the passing game, man, he can go absolutely and nuke the fantasy football world.
Yeah, I mean, in 2.5-ish games, he had 25 carries and 4 rushing touchdowns. Like, now the downside of that is that's why he got hurt. But
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he's obviously a massive guy, but like those guys in the NFL hit hard, so you still got to protect your body, especially your.
I mean, that's a lot of force coming together. 2 big guys just crushing into each other. That's a whole lot of force coming together.
Another thing, early on in those games he was playing. Jonathan Taylor was not for the most part. So down around the goal line, will he still always be used as that hammer, or they're paying JT a lot? He's probably gonna command a good amount of that.
Yeah, I would think if you're paying him that money, you're gonna use him down there, and not try to wear and tear your quarterback out. Mm-hmm. But I think biggest worry thing for me, obviously, clearly injuries, only playing 2.5 games, whatever. But just the price you're paying for him in startups, it's just you're almost buying at what his ceiling is. And is it worth paying that when we've done several mock drafts, and you can get quarterbacks that have done it later than where he's going. I mean, he's going anywhere from like 1/6 to the end of the first round in startups. And for me, depending on who's left there, it's just tough for me to say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that when, I mean, obviously it could massively pay off for you. I just don't know if it's worth the risk for me.
Sleeper ADP right now, he's coming off as the quarterback 8. Names ahead of him are Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams. Names right after him, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert.
Where's, just for reference, in that ADP, where's Jaden Daniels at?
Jaden Daniel is down at quarterback 12. So you got Herbert, Murray, Daniels.
I think that's still pretty high, but I think Jaden Daniels offers probably a similar upside. I mean, we haven't seen him play in the NFL real games yet, so we don't totally know what his floor is going to be. But in terms of having a top 5 upside, Jaden Daniels absolutely has that.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson's like ADP is usually beginning of second round, 13.4. Jaden Daniels 28.7. So you can get him a whole round later. So,
and I think for me, you list the quarterbacks after him. With Herbert and Love, this is just my opinion, obviously, but I think I'd rather take both those guys over just risking where you're going to go with AR there.
And all this is probably going to some people, sound like we're kind of down on him. I can't wait to watch him play.
Which is why I'm not saying much, because I would literally be nothing but hype train right now, because I truly believe in him and I love him. And I mean, he's obviously on the Colts. So I'm like full in on him.
He's a complete one-of-one player that we have never seen before. So it's like, and that's why the hype is so high, because it's just this mystery box upside.
Correct.
And yeah, that's what he is. I mean, he has a huge risk. It's a big risk, big reward, though. You can either take the risk and completely miss, and you're spending high capital on someone that might whiff or might be injured, and you're playing that game, or you can take the risk and man, he can go absolutely huge. So I would say you're not drafting him at his ceiling here at quarterback 8, because I think he can finish easily as a top 5. So I mean, getting him there, I wouldn't say it's his ceiling, but it's definitely a huge risk. But we'll keep moving on here down to the running backs. Actually, sorry, real quick, Joe Flacco. Any interest as a handcuff to have there?
I mean,
I am holding him on one roster in my super flex, and barring how my roster shakes out.
I think with the injury history of Anthony Richardson and how he plays, it's not a bad idea. Just if you got a deep bench, to just stash old Flacco, because we saw what he did in Cleveland. He's not afraid to chuck it. So,
no, definitely not. And one of the reasons I hadn't moved on from Flacco is there were those reports out about Richardson's shoulder. So yeah.
All right, on to the running backs here. Jonathan Taylor, Trey Sermon's looking like the number 2. And then Evan Hull's kind of taken the back seat after he was a kind of like a sleeper for a lot of people last year. Evan Hull is, I think, he's going to be that running back 3, unfortunately, after taking the injury his rookie year. And Trey Sermon step into that number 2 spot here. But a real interesting thing to talk about is, Grant, you brought it up earlier, Jonathan Taylor hasn't played any games with Anthony Richardson. He was out when Anthony Richardson was playing for those first few weeks there. And what do you think that does to Taylor's usage?
I mean, I think this is probably the best quarterback he's played with. So overall, I think it's going to open up a lot more things for him just in that offense. I mean, yeah, he could bleed some goal line touches here and there, but I mean, I think we should expect a lot of the usual. I mean, maybe one place he could also be lacking, and we'd have to see more from AR to see this, but a lot of the times scrambling running quarterbacks are not great for receiving volume for running backs, just because they don't always love to dump off. So that's definitely going to be something to monitor to see how that goes. But overall, he's just one of those guys where he can just blow up at any point. So I'm still feeling pretty good about him. I'm not even sure what his ADP is looking like these days.
He's usually about running back 5.
Okay,
about third round.
I mean, he's still only 25. I mean, it seems like he's been around longer than that. But
names coming behind him. Travis Etienne is running back 6, Saquon 7. In front of him, Jahmyr Gibbs. So I think he's right where he should be, right there about running back 5.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
So I think he's a good spot there. I'd rather have him ahead of Etienne and Barkley both, but I think I'd take Gibbs, Hall, and McCaffrey and Bijan ahead of him. So I think he's sitting right there about where he should be.
And this, I'm not going to say this just because I did a little segment earlier this year on Evan Hull being a buy, but I'm not totally sure why Trey Sermon is just locked and loaded as the RB2, besides the fact he's got the size, I guess. Like last year, he had the one game where he had like 17 carries for 88 yards. Which, yeah, I just think I still am standing behind if I want to own a handcuff there. I'd rather just shoot for the upside on Evan Hull.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, I mean, he was the 5th-round pick there. And so, you get injured your rookie year, and sometimes you just take that back seat because they have no draft capital invested in you, so you're just a toss to the wind. I mean, Sermon was at least a third round draft pick when he went into San Fran
3 teams ago, but yeah, I mean,
right.
I think second.
But I mean, so maybe that's part of it. And Tyler Goodson, we watched him a ball bounce off of his face to get us into the playoffs last year. So
I just remember when Sermon signed with the Eagles as like the backup to whoever was the starter there, Miles Sanders maybe, and that whole hype train started again, and he just face planted. Like it has some similar vibes again. But I mean, he's pretty much free 99 right now. So I mean, if you want to stash him, go for it.
Can't beat free 99.
I've been stashing him. I've been getting him off waivers everywhere just for the heck of it. I mean, Taylor hasn't had the biggest health history. I mean, he's been injured quite a bit. So just to have a potential there to maybe either use 1 week or just maybe you need to sell him, just get a little something out of him. On to the wide receivers, though. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs. We touched on Josh Downs getting injured, and that's kind of opening up a hole here for Alec Pierce and Adonai Mitchell. Kind of fighting for that wide receiver 3 spot. So far, the words out of camp, though, are that it's been Alec Pierce that's going to be getting it. You guys got any opinions on AD Mitchell or Pierce?
I mean, to me, they're like very similar players that are supposed to fill a similar role, so I'm not surprised that the vet is ahead at this point. Like, we knew AD Mitchell was pretty raw, so this entire season could be a wash for him. Like, I don't think that's going to be shocking. I mean, there's a reason that he's going in the mid to late-ish second in most rookie drafts. Yeah, I mean, I just think you got to trust the talent and kind of hold on that. I mean, we know who Alec Pierce is at this point. It's nothing too special.
The one game wonder where he'll go and get 2 touchdowns, 100 yards, just randomly once in the season.
Which is my concern is even if he gets the job, that's what AD Mitchell will be. Like, he's not probably ever going to be like a high target volume wide receiver. He's just kind of that height, weight, speed, deep threat, which isn't always great for fantasy. But sometimes those guys just then, refine their skills and use that athleticism to turn into alpha wide receivers too. So you kind of got to roll that dice.
All right, Michael Pittman. I need you guys to make me feel better about him because there's been a lot of people speculating because, we've only seen Anthony Richardson in two full-on games, and he threw for 223 and 200. And a lot of people are saying that the volume's not going to be there for Michael Pittman. But what I saw was that when Anthony Richardson was there, he was hyper-targeted. So I don't have concerns about Michael Pittman, but I know there are a lot of people that do have concerns for Michael Pittman and don't see him as that alpha wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 games of last year, Michael Pittman had 34 targets. So, and it was, I think, a little unexpected because the targets were, if I recall, kind of a little different than he usually got. I mean, it was some closer to the line screen type stuff. I think he might have, one of those games he busted like a screen for like a 50-yard touchdown, like not, hasn't always been like a huge like run after the catch guy, but like he's their number 1 guy by far. They paid him. He's talented. I don't think people need to overthink it unless you're really concerned about where his ADP is compared to other guys, but he seems like at least a very safe bet to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're just, hoping he can keep doing with what he did last year and continue to. But those first 3 weeks, I'm like, his yards per target, week 1 was 8.82, and then the next week was 4.57, and then a 7 again the following week. So I think you're saying there were shorter routes. But yeah, I believe in the guy. I think he's going to be fine. I'm not worried about it that much there.
Love to hear it, boys. Love to hear it. ADP wise, he's wide receiver 16. Waddle, Adunze ahead of him. Devonta Smith, Nico Collins behind him. I don't think that's a bad spot for him.
Finished 13 last year. Like,
yeah, I'm fine with that.
The targets might go down volume wise, but the quality might be a lot better than Daddy Minshew.
How do you guys feel about Josh Downs? A lot of people love him and are a big believer in him. I think he's a great wide receiver for the NFL. For fantasy football wise, I don't have any shares of him because I mean, he can be one of those guys that, blows up a week and does another week. He plays out of the slot. He's a smaller guy. So I'm not super invested into him in fantasy. I like him as an NFL receiver, but fantasy wise, I'm kind of out on him.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that absolutely. And I think it's because he's like a slot receiver in an offense where it's not totally sure he's going to get enough volume to make up for that. For me, though, I think there's almost like some like Tank Dell, like mystery box upside there that I'm willing to bet on, especially, people are down on Tank because A, he looked like a gadget type player. B, we didn't know how good that offense was going to be. So if Anthony Richardson just blows up, then that raises all boats. And, Josh Downs goes from wide receiver 2 on a okay passing offense to wide receiver 2 on really good passing offense. And then that real life talent translates to fantasy points. But I definitely get why people would just be out on him because it might never actually translate to consistent points.
2 finishes in the top 24 last year. That's just kind of what makes me nervous. Other ones are, like towards the back end of the year, it was wide receiver 90, 56, 44, 55, 55, 74. But that's what I'm saying. I don't know what weeks I can trust with him to be able to play in fantasy football. Under the tight ends though, and you guys know I'm gonna dabble in my boy. 100% ownership in pretty much basically all my leagues that I've owned for a long time, and an orphan I don't have them. But Jelani Woods, man, just an athletic freak, injured all year last year, has the potential to be good. But I think the problem with this Colts tight end group is there's so many. You still got Mo Alley Cox there, which they seem to love. Kylan Granson, which is coming into, I believe, his fourth year in the league. So they like him a lot there. So I feel like it's just so crowded and they utilize them all so differently and so much. So it's hard to bet on really just any one of these tight ends. I go and bet on Jelani Woods for the potential of hopefully maybe he'll show that, hey, I am an athletic tight end that can get the job done. But I think the truth in all of it is that I think it's just too crowded of a tight end room to try to really figure out for fantasy football.
Yeah, I mean, I think always the easiest way to chase tight end production is to chase targets, and I just don't think there's going to be a consistent volume of targets to any one guy tight end wise in that whole room.
You guys thought I was just going to come out praising Jelani Woods, didn't you?
Is that not what you just did?
I didn't. I did not. Did I, Grant?
One can argue that it might be still a little much for somebody who might be done after this year, but
it wasn't a praise. It was he has all of the athletic ability to do it, but it's just not a great situation. But it's a tough one. All right. Anything else you guys need to touch on with the Colts? Anyone?
Nope. I think we're good.
I have nothing on the Colts. Just keep an eye out for Wade's over.
You got the over? Okay. Wade, what about you?
Barely,
over under
yes.
8.5.
Ooh. Under.
I'm going to take the over because those are my boys. I can't not take the over.
I could have thrown that ball, Grant. That's
Minus about 20 yards.
20. I was thinking like 30.
It was farther. I looked at it again. He's like on the logo.
Yeah, that was a dime.
All right, Jacksonville Jaguars. Starting from the top, quarterback Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, C.J. Beathard, running back Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, Dearness Johnson, no other names needed, wide receivers Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis, Parker Washington, Devin Duvernay. Wow, I didn't know he was on there. Tim Jones. I just want to say this one, Joshua Cephas. No other names needed.
Okay.
Starter at
Is
the top.
Joshua Cephas the same as Quintez Cephas?
That's who I was thinking.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't know if he changed his name or something.
It says Joshua Cephas, so no, it's a rookie. It is not Quintez.
Okay.
He's a rookie. Okay. All right, starting off with Trevor Lawrence. How do you got? Where are you guys at with Trevor Lawrence? I don't know what to do. Say, question. Where are you guys at with him?
I think he's good. I think you're just fantasy-wise. I think he's just going to be probably a fringe top 10 guy. I don't know if he's ever going to be that dude that everybody was like really hoping he would be. Now that he might make me eat my words this year, I don't know. But that's just kind of where I'm at. Like he's still a dude and he's still an asset. I just don't think he's going to be that dude. Like I said, that everybody thought he had the capability to be.
Yeah, I mean the name value probably still outweighs what he's actually given. But yeah, I mean, for me, at least in terms of an NFL quarterback, I'm going to go down with the ship on him because if he doesn't make it, and I mean, he's already made it, he's a starting NFL quarterback that's going to get paid a lot of money here soon. But I mean, if there's and I think people confuse when you're called generational, that means that you're a lock Hall of Famer. He was drafted number 1 overall to be and he's been a no doubt starting NFL top half quarterback. That's not a given when you're drafting anybody number 1 overall. But yeah, fantasy wise, it's just not been there. I almost want to blame Doug Peterson. I feel like there's something wrong there. I will blame Calvin Ridley and maybe Doug Peterson for how they use Calvin Ridley. But yeah, go watch that super cut of all his drops from last year.
I did
on clear touchdowns. Yeah, which I'm not sure Gabe Davis is going to help that out this year, but yeah, I think Christian Kirk being healthy will help him. But yeah, if you can find people that are starting to be down on him, I'd absolutely have him locked and loaded as a high end QB2. I don't know how I'd feel about him as my QB1 necessarily, but
agreed.
He did get an extension grant. He had $275 million 5-year extension.
I couldn't. There's so many in the last month. Yeah. I thought he was one of those. But
he did get one of the big nets. But I see him kind of like how you guys are, so I feel good about that. I think he's just going to be that middling quarterback for fantasy football. He has the potential to finish as a back-end quarterback 1. Most years probably an upper-end quarterback 2. So I think that's where I'm at with them. There's a potential trade out right now. I have Josh Allen. The guy offered me Trevor Lawrence, a 2025, 2026 first, and then a 2025 second.
Is this in the team that you took over?
Yes, it is.
In your situation, I smashed that all day, but that's just me.
Okay. All right. That's I didn't know.
Yeah,
just
I think
getting Trevor Lawrence back.
You're essentially getting 3. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is Superflex. He's going to be worth a first.
Okay.
The quality of first is very. I mean, obviously you don't know, but that's essentially 3 firsts and a 2 on top. I mean, you're not going to in the situation you're in this league. You're not going to get more than that.
All right. I like
Just
it.
my opinion.
Any more on Trevor? No. Any interest in Mac Jones as a handcuff backup?
Trevor Lawrence has been hurt, but I mean,
he plays through it, man. He's a monster. He'll play.
I think that's something that needs to be taken into account with how he's finished. I still don't think we've seen a fully healthy, not Urban Meyer as the coach season from him. So there might still be a little untapped upside left there.
This running back group, it's frustrating and weird with how the coaches speak of it. They say they want to take touches away from Travis Etienne, and they want to try to give it to Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby looked terrible last year. Fumbled it, an old fumblerooski. This year he's had a little bit of hype coming out of training camp saying he looks better, and they're still saying they want to get rid of, give Etienne more of a break. I just don't think they can do it. As a Tank Bigsby owner, I would love it if they did, but I just don't foresee it going away from ETN because he's a good running back. I just don't see his touches going down. It's going to be nothing but workhorse workload for him again. He was elevated by his touchdowns last year. He had multiple games like back to back of 2 touchdown weeks, which elevate him big time. But it's a possibility that happens with him again. So ETN, I think, is a great asset to have on your team.
Yeah, I agree. I think ETN's a great asset for you to have. And then on the coach speaking anything for the running back, there's a difference between wanting to do it and being able to do it. And they don't have the horses there to alternate off with ETN. It's ETN and then a bunch of just dudes.
Tank Bigsby has an absolute uncanny ability to transfer the ball from his hands into the other team's hands, whether that be via the ground or air. So, yeah, I don't think that's not something coaches are usually a big fan of. So
even when you're up big and you want to pull the workhorse out, you can't put him in because then he'll just put the other team right back into scoring position.
Yeah, I mean,
good to know.
Yeah, you might see more Terrence Johnson than him this year if it stays the same. And I think with ETN too, I mean, he, had pretty much 30 more catches last year than his rookie year, and the receiving people really thought coming into the league was going to be his calling card, and I think there's still even more upside there. So yeah, you could have a trade-off with less touchdowns, but potentially more receiving upside. So yeah, I mean, there's only so many workhorses, and especially young ones, and he's definitely one of the few right now.
Agreed.
Wide receiver core. Christian Kirk, I think, is the one. Any question about it from either one of you guys? No? Christian Kirk is going to be that target, may not be the highest touchdown guy. Last year he finished with 3 touchdowns, but he had, he didn't even have that many targets. 85 targets, 57 receptions. Man, he did miss.
He only played 12 games.
So
his testicles exploded like in week whatever that was, but they didn't actually. But people definitely thought they did.
I forgot all about that. Oh man!
You walking out there with a metal testicle? Metal balls, Christian Kirk. His balls are steel, baby. But I think no doubt he's going to be the go-to guy for Trevor Lawrence again. We saw the connection last year that when Trevor Lawrence needed somebody to go to, it was Christian Kirk. And I don't think Brian Thomas or Gabe Davis comes in and takes that role away from him. I know you guys are higher on Brian Thomas than I am. So where do you guys see Brian Thomas fitting into this offense? Because I see him as a Gabe Davis 2.0. That's what I see.
I will say before that, I just think that what you're hoping for with Christian Kirk is obviously you had Ridley come in and take some target share away, that you're just hoping he goes back to that first year he was in Jacksonville. I think he finished as wide receiver 11. But yeah, Brian Thomas, I think you're just kind of hoping that with the landing spot there, good quarterback, he's going to be able to live up to the draft capital invested in him. And you're just going to pretty much bank on the talent and the landing spot there.
Yeah, I mean, I think his usage absolutely could be Gabe Davis like year one, but that won't necessarily discourage me. Like you're betting on the alpha profile there. And, he could easily use that to just pop off. Like I'm not super – Gabe Davis will probably be a more trusted veteran early on, but, I mean, we know exactly what he is at this point, so I'm not super scared. And I think for, I'm sure we're probably going to be talking about him next, but I think his outlook is exactly the same as it was in Buffalo. Like he's going to catch a couple of those deep shots and have a big game here and there, and otherwise you're going to be terrified to start him every week.
No, I mean, I don't think anything more needs to be said about Gabe Davis. He is who he is. We saw him in Buffalo. That's just going to continue to Jacksonville. He's can blow up games and then absolutely goose egg for the next 2 or 3 weeks and then blow up another game. So great best ball option. Other than that, I'm not in on Gabe Davis. Let's talk about the true target hog here. Evan Ingram. I mean, we've been beating the drum for him all offseason, honestly. He's coming off the board typically, tight end 9? Stupid. Just stupid, man. 143 targets last year, 114 receptions. He is a go-to guy for Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be still getting those targets. I don't see him going away once again. And just an awesome buy. I don't think you have to give that much up to somebody to go and get Evan Ingram. So if you're trying to win now, I think he is an awesome person to go out and get, and I still stand by that.
Yeah,
I won in the pass game.
Yeah, I think with Kirk being back, that may impact him a little bit with some of these middle of the field targets. I mean, it was when Kirk was gone that he truly was like turbocharged last year and had these massive finishes that really then vaulted him to that high finish. But even before that, he was getting consistent volume, which, like I said, is really all you can ask for when it comes to the tight ends. So, especially because you're not paying top 5 prices for him, even if he doesn't hit that ceiling this year, and he's just a solid option instead of an elite one. You're still happy with that, most likely, with considering what the tight end landscape looks like out there.
Finished as the tight end too, man. Finished as the tight end too. Anything else need to be said about Jacksonville? Over under 8.5. What do you got, Grant?
Under. I think they're better. I think they're going to finish under, and Doug Peterson is going to get fired.
Wait, where are you at? Over or under?
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm going to go under as well. I would not be surprised if exactly what Grant said happens.
That division's
All three of us.
It's not easy.
All three of us are going the under. We're taking the under on that one. So, all right, on to our friends, the Houston Texans. I think this is going to be a pretty easy one. All right, starting from the top here, depth chart. Obviously, our quarterback 1, Davis Mills, CJ Stroud. Case Keenum's still there somehow. Running backs, Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, Cam Akers, Jawar Jordan, Dare Ogunbowale. I think I said it right. Killed it.
I think you got that right.
Wide receivers, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Noah Brown, Xavier Hutchinson, Robert Woods is still alive, John Mechie. Oh, the Cooper Kupp decoy has made his way to the Houston Texans, Ben Skoranek. And I think that's about it. I think we're good there.
I almost thought you said John Mechie is still alive, which that was dark. But
Jesus. And the pod on that one.
Robert Woods. I don't even see John Mechie's name. Did I say it? I don't see his name on here.
Yes, you did. You said it right after.
Okay. Oh, okay.
He is thankfully alive.
I didn't say that. I just want it to be known. This is a kid-friendly podcast.
Not anymore.
Okay, start at the top. CJ Stroud. I think really the only thing I have to say about CJ Stroud is that his ADP quarterback-wise, he's usually about the quarterback 4. It's just a little spicy for my liking. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. He might be in for a little, sophomore regression. Who cares? I think he's going to be awesome. He's got the receiving core now even better, pumped up. He's got Joe Mixon in the backfield to help with the running game, to help take a little pressure off of their passing game. So I think he's going to be awesome. It's just his ADP. I wouldn't want to take him there because his ADP so high. That's really my only knock on CJ Stroud. Where are you guys at?
Yeah, I'm right. And I mean, preface this all by saying that he's awesome. He's likely going to be awesome, but he was QB 11 last year. I mean, he was he's a pocket only quarterback, and the offense is going to be better. But at this point, he's fancy Joe Burrow, but I don't think he's better than Joe Burrow, at least not yet.
Agreed.
So yeah, I mean, I think I will definitely be passing on any ADP around that range.
Yeah, I agree with
I'm glad we all stand in the same place. Davis Mills, handcuff, anyone? No? Old Mr.
I mean, Stroud had that
long
concussion
neck
thing, I guess, but I mean,
the highlight of Davis Mills' career is going to be the one pass he threw to land them CJ Stroud and land the Bears Caleb Williams.
Mm-hmm.
There
was that brief glimmer of hope where people thought he was worth something after year 1, but
I think this running back room is pretty easy to shake down too. Joe Mixon's the clear-cut workhorse. They brought him in. They traded for him. He was going to be released. They could have taken him as a free agent. he was going to be released from the Bengals. The next thing we know, he's traded for, and then they gave him the extension. They brought him in to be the workhorse. He's going to get the workload. We saw the Dameon Pierce experiment last year. It just didn't work out. And they did bolster their lineup a little bit. So I think that'll help Joe Mixon a little bit more in this running game. But Dameon Pierce is cool. Great to have as a handcuff in case Mixon goes down because he is older. But I think it's going to be the Joe Mixon show here.
Did you mention the one of the newest Texans running back additions in the depth chart?
Cam Akers?
Yeah. Or was I?
I did say Cam Akers.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't
right
think he's
before Jordan.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think Pierce has RB2 spot locked up, but I mean, that was interesting that they, even though I think Dameon Pierce is kind of cooked anyway, but somebody's got to be the guy behind Mixon, I guess.
Yeah, I think Cam Akers was more of just like hey, let's see if this guy has anything left to play, a depth role. But I really think that's about it for Cam Akers.
That was Devin Singletary last year too, and then he relegated Dameon Pierce to kickoffs.
But yes, he relegated Dameon Pierce. He did not relegate Joe Mixon.
No. I mean, this is everything after Mixon. That's set in stone. Yeah,
right.
The only discussion is after that at this point.
But if you play in a league that scores points for return yards, Dameon Pierce is your guy. Don't forget it.
Honestly, after watching some of the preseason return stuff, I don't think it's going to be as prolific as I thought it was before.
Yeah.
It looked like it could potentially be, but it's not looking like it's going to shake out that way.
It's just going to turn into like one big run play every time. So, yeah, I was in the same boat, but, yeah, it's kind of ugly. So we'll see how that changes, but.
Anything else about this running back room? Nope. No. All right. Wide receiver room. I also, once again, they bring in Stephon Diggs. I think it's pretty easy to shake down, though. I think you got Nico. He got the extension. He got the bag. He's their wide receiver one. I think he's going to be the go-to guy. Him and Stroud had an awesome connection last year. It'll be interesting to see how Diggs plays a role in this offense, because I do know that C.J. Stroud absolutely loves Tank Dell. So it'll be interesting to kind of see the usage. I know there was a video going around. It looked like Stephon Diggs was yelling at C.J. Stroud on the sideline. They were just having a conversation. It literally came out. They were having a conversation, everyone blowing it up that Diggs was already being a turd. It takes him a year or two to be a turd, okay? He was fine with the Bills for the first couple of years. He gets warmed up to being a turd. So it'll just be interesting to see. Where do you – I have the wide receiver core honestly being Nico, Dell, Diggs is how I think it's going to go. How do you guys have this wide receiver room kind of shaken up?
I got Diggs at 2, Dell at 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I have Diggs at 3. I think – and I still believe in the talent, but I think it was just going to – I mean, Nico's going to be the alpha X receiver. Dell is going to be the Z, maybe in the slot sometimes, but he's going to be the explosive type guy. We saw him catch a 25-yard touchdown from Stroud last night. And then Diggs is going to be the not necessarily in the slot, but I think slot type usage, just the short and intermediate. I mean, we know we can do more than that, but at this point, I don't know how much. I wouldn't blame people on still. I mean, we've talked that I think he's still worth a bet for the right price. But I mean, Dell, I think we're completely past all the concerns about him being too small or what. I mean, the just absolutely
he's so hard to guard.
The blow the top off of any weak potential is there every time. And yeah, we've already seen that in the preseason. So yeah, as long as they don't, have him run block at the goal line anymore and snap his little
They said that was a mistake. They said it was a mistake.
Yeah,
we're shocked. It's like a real genius to admit that one.
Over or under 13 and a half games, Stephon Diggs complains about his usage. Over under.
I thought you were going to say that was the win total.
No.
I mean, I've never, when you think about it, I mean, what receiver has ever had as good as quarterback play as he's going to have in his career, but then always somehow had a problem with it? I mean, he's at this point, outside of injury, this will be his third great quarterback that he's played with.
Yep.
And he's always got a problem. So
there's your diva, Colten.
Right? That is the diva. You're right. I was saying Ayuk was a diva in our
No,
text
this man's
chat.
forced 2 trades, and you're still going.
Any more interest with any other wide receivers? I know Noah Brown was a big spark last year here and there when there's a lot of injuries, but I think with the addition of Stephon Diggs, I don't think there's going to be a lot of
he's back, so you can at least have him on your radar if somebody gets hurt, but I wouldn't waste my time holding them.
Right. Okay. Tight end, Dalton Schultz, rookie Cade Stover. I don't know if I read them off in the roster names, but Schultz, I think we're starting to get too crowded with the passing here. I think he is a good tight end, and I think he'll get some fine usage, but I don't think it's anyone you're going to be excited about this year.
I think he's going to be the odd man out.
Yeah. I think there's too many mouths to feed.
Yeah, I think he's getting paid too much to not be involved, but yeah, he's all his best years. He's always been a pretty much top 2 option on his team, and that's not the case anymore. So you can do worse.
Like 5th at best.
5th?
Joe Mixon out of the backfield.
I guess I don't count that as like a real passing option. That's kind of just the last resort thing. But I think he becomes pretty touchdown dependent at this point, which is just the case with that just makes him a dime a dozen tight end then.
All right, over under 9.5.
Over, yeah.
I'm gonna take the over on this one. Oh, consensus on the over. Anything else we need to say?
Nope.
No. All right. Final team, the Tennessee Titans. Let me get to my roster here real quick. All right, starting at the top here. Quarterback Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, Malik Willis. Running back Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, Julius Chestnut, Hassan Haskins. Wide receiver Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, Nick Westbrook-Akine, Treylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, Jaquan Jackson, no other names need said. Tight ends, Chiga Okonkwo and Josh Wiley. Where are you guys at, Will Levis? Wade, I feel like you're a big fan of Will Levis.
I don't know if I'm a big fan. I think the talent's there, and he's a gunslinger, so I like that portion. But
I'm shocked. I actually thought you were going to hate him.
I don't dislike Will Levis. I just dislike the guy's love of mayonnaise.
I like that he eats bananas with the peel on.
He seems to be an odd fellow. But no, he's got a lot of although Hopkins is older and same with Boyd, but like the weapons are kind of there. I don't know how the offensive line's going to shake out there. They got some young pieces, but I think this might be the year where you're going to be like, okay, this is like the chance for him to really show what he's got. Now we'll see if he can do it, but I think you might have enough people that are low on him where it might be worth a buy.
This wide receiving core, if you put it back 5 years ago, would have been awesome.
Insane.
It would have been awesome. To have that as your receiving core 5 years ago would have been the best thing a quarterback could have ever seen in his career. And now, it's not terrible, but it ain't as pretty as what you think it should be with the name power that's there. But I think you're right. It is a make or break year for Will Levis. They put all the weapons around him. Dude's got an arm. The training camp buzz around him has been that he has been doing much better, that he's been better with his decisions. I know last year a big thing with him was he was just absolutely eat the sacks, would just get completely destroyed. And they said he's been doing better at that, but is it just training camp buzz? Who knows?
Well, their offensive line was top tier awful last year, so I think they've already invested in that more this year, so that'll definitely help. I think one note I just want to make is literally one of my favorite plays from last year is the time where Levis threw a pick over the middle, but the ball was halfway in the air and he was already running to make the tackle. And then he
got the fumble recovery. He got the fumble recovery, didn't he?
I think so. No, he's an absolute psycho out there. But
he is a dog.
I think this whole position group we're going to talk about, there's kind of every year there's always these offense. There's at least a offense we don't expect that really blows up. Last year it was the Texans. and kind of raises the value of all these guys we were lower on because we weren't sure about it. If there's anyone this year, it could be this one just because of, you got Brian Callahan in as the coach, more offensive focused guy. Mike Vrabel, great football coach, not good for offense. And yeah, Levis actually has, inherent talent. Whether he can harness that, we'll see. But I think, if there's any team that can, outside of ones that have like a new rookie quarterback that we totally don't know about, that can things just click for, and these guys all outperform expectations. I think it could be this one.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and especially with Will Levis coming off the board as quarterback 25, I'm in. I'm in on Will Levis. Like, you're throwing nothing. I mean, his ADP is 100.
At that late, what other guys can you get that have upside and are still young?
Yeah. So at that ADP, I would absolutely be taking Will Levis, taking the shot of that, especially with the new weapons he has in town. So
sorry, I had to pop off for a phone call. What was his ADP there?
His quarterback ADP is 25, but his ADP is 100. So I mean,
you're smashing that all day.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. Running backs: Tony Pollard, Tajay Spear. I think this running back room is easy to figure out. 1A, 1B, they're interchangeable. Coaches already came out and said that these guys are pretty interchangeable. We can use them the exact same. They have a similar play style. Tajay Spears, I might be, a little higher on because he got the youth on his side. He does not have an ACL on one of his sides, but so maybe that ages him a little bit. But there's at least some youth to him.
It only ages one knee.
Yeah, one knee's 30, the other.
I mean, if you don't have one, you can't tear it. So
that's true.
Wrong. You're not wrong. You can just tear all the other ones.
You definitely took the zinger right out of my mouth with that. I think I might go on the other side with Pollard just because, and I like Spears, but Pollard's the 1A, 1B situation has proven to be better for Pollard. We all could not wait for him to get the workhorse usage, and then it did not go like how everybody thought. And it's clear that him being used in those situations where he just has more juice is better. So I assume Spears is the more expensive one right now. I'm not up to date on those values.
I think they're going back to back, honestly.
Okay.
I think they're literally going right around each other.
Yeah, I mean, so if it's a coin flip, it's tempting to just take the young guy instead. I mean, totally depends on your team construction. But yeah, people love Spears, but last year, and I know I just got off saying that offense was really bad, but it's not like he really gave you more than just a couple of flashes here and there. Now, it was mostly in the receiving game, which is a good sign. But yeah, I don't know. It just depends on if you're competing or not, on if you want to take Pollard, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm more on the Pollard side there, just mainly because he's done it, even though he's coming off, some injuries or whatever. But I think that's just the guy I would choose over Spears. I feel bad for anybody who bought either of those guys, expecting them to be, that next workhorse, and then you paid the extreme value of it, and now you got a situation where it's just pick your poison.
I almost forgot there was a lot of Spears buying after Henry left. Which if you just straight up drafted him, in the mid to late second and just held the line, then you're feeling good. But yeah, correct. If you were out there throwing first because you had the next Titans RB1, RIP to you.
Yep. All right, the wide receiver core. I think they have it laid out correctly in the depth chart. Ridley the 1, Hopkins 2, Boyd the 3. We know what all of these guys are. I think Calvin Ridley has the most potential upside. He was out for basically 2 whole years due to injury and suspension. So there's, not as much, wear and tear on his tires. But Hopkins is going to be, he's going to do what he is. He's getting older. So he's 32 going to his 33-year-old season. So there's a.
Did we talk about his injury?
Off the wagon. Who?
Hopkins.
I think we had touched on it.
I don't think we did.
Not on this episode. Nope. We have not, but
no.
I wasn't exactly. I wasn't exactly sure what the total details were.
He will be missing a pretty decent
Sideline
amount.
for several weeks due to a knee injury is what I'm reading.
Could be back by week 1, but I mean, it does affect that. I know there's people acting like there's a little Traylon Burks renaissance going on, but
stop with
hold the line. Can't be worth any less.
Oh no.
I mean, talking about a guy who was the first player ever to be worth like negative points in trade calculators. I mean, come on, you got to hold at this point.
Oh man, if you still have him, you're just a dirty bird. If you still got him on your team, and I've said it before, you're
looking at a dirty bird.
I
got him for damn
just don't have
$3.99, so I'm just holding him. Unless I need the roster space, then I'll fire him into the sun. But otherwise, I will hold the line and pray to God something happens.
I mean, I think if I'm with as much as I believe in Will Levis, I have to believe in this wide receiver core. But it's just hard for me to also believe in this wide receiver core. I mean, we know who Tyler Boyd is. He's going to get, quite a few targets. He's a lovely wide receiver 3 to have.
Yeah, and I think he's in the perfect spot there, really.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great wide receiver 3 to have even on your team. You can toss him in, and he'll probably get you some steady Eddie points. That's what he is. That's what he's always been. That's what he does. Calvin Ridley is going to be the one that can, go and really do something on this team, score a lot of points. Hopkins is, probably at this point, I just say the only thing carrying him with any amount of value is his name value. I don't know if a lot of people are really excited to go out and trade for Hopkins though.
But I think that almost makes him a buy at least.
Yeah.
And we don't know about this injury now.
What would you give up for him?
I think
the third.
I think I bought him for $312 like a month ago.
Okay. I mean, for that, I'd be in. I'd buy.
I mean, because last year he had wide receiver 7, 2, 14, 5, and 14 finishes. I mean, for buying for a third, there's not a lot of receivers that can give you top 10 upside on any given week. I mean, you say it's not going to feel good, but no buy low does. And yeah, I think if Levis does take a step, it helps even more. But already having an injury at that age this year is a little bit scary. That's for sure.
Yeah. Anyone else we need to talk about in this wide receivers core? Don't say Burks. Wade.
No, I mean, I'm sure. I hope we're past like the randomness, Nick Westbrook, Akine,
or the Kyle Phillips, man. There's a
game.
random Kyle Phillips hype too.
Well, the problem is Kyle Phillips never even had good games. Westbrook Akine would have a game here or there, and then he'd be like the most added player on waivers, and then it wouldn't go anywhere. But Kyle Phillips had one, and I was a big fan coming out, and he had one game where he had 5 for 55, and I was like, oh, it's happening, and then it
Kyle Phillips was the "you're white, you're Cooper Kupp, you're gonna be good" thing, and
Kyle Phillips is not fancy lad. He's budget lad McConkey. He's the one people would show him running a zig route out there, and you'd be like, holy shit, this guy's gonna get open so much, and then
in reality, he's just Hunter Renfrow.
Chigokonkwo, he was hyped up last year, didn't live up to the hype at all. Where are you at with Chig? I'm out on him. I think with all these receivers now, I don't think there's a lot of mouths to feed for Will Levis, and I just don't know. I don't see, if he didn't do it last year when he had the opportunity, I don't see him doing it this year.
My feed cut out. Are we talking about Chig?
We're talking about Chig. Yeah, Wade's disappeared. His internet's shoddy. But yeah, Chigokonkwo is just. I was talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
Never mind. Go ahead. Anyway, I was say I am not out on Chig, I guess, but I think that he's, for the value you can get him at, I see it being worth a little something. I don't think he's going to be if you're expecting top 10 or something, I think you're just kind of in the wrong boat there. But
no, I mean,
yeah.
Like I said, this offense has untapped potential that we don't know about. We don't know that he's that far down the target hierarchy.
Right.
I mean, he's definitely below Ridley and Hopkins, but is he below Tyler Boyd? I'm not so sure.
No, I'm putting him at 3.
Tyler Boyd was only a good bet when you could plug him directly into a Bengals offense that was missing Higgins or Chase on a given week. Like otherwise, it's he's kind of past that. Like he's at least with Chig, you have athletic upside, a quarterback with untapped upside, and the potential for targets. We don't know about that, but and yeah, I mean he's worth what, a third now? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was just the hype last year because he was probably you had to spend like a second to get him.
no, I mean
Last year.
the problem is last year that off. I mean, talk about certain offenses like the tide raising all boats. Like this tide just got completely drained out. Like the boats were on the bottom of the ocean because they just couldn't do anything outside of Derrick Henry. But yeah, I mean it's. I'll throw the dirt on him before Jelani Woods. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I think this is just my Colton's Jelani Woods here. I am at this point. I'm
Come on,
in on
boys.
him, and it's just see what happens.
You can get Jelani Woods for nothing. Probably the waivers unless you're in a league with me.
Unfortunately, we are in leagues with you.
But you ain't getting
100% of
them. Ain't getting them. All right, over under 6.5.
Over.
Over because that's
I'm taking the
yeah.
under. I'm taking the under on this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think with if our math is even
I
working
said
out.
I don't think mathematically you can take the under on 3 teams.
I'm taking the under.
Yeah, 6.5.
We took the over on the Colts and the
Oh,
Texans.
I guess I took the under on the Colts.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Yeah.
I'll take the under, but I think it'll be
Let's
at
go.
like 6. I mean, they won't be have 3 wins, but
Yeah, I think that's what it'll be. 5 or 6.
They'll snag a
All
7th.
right. All right. Well, that was the AFC South. Next week, we're going to break it down in the West with our final breakdown. Then we're going to get into some fun stuff. The season's right around the corner. Football's back, baby. We got some preseason action going on. We'll keep everything updated as it gets at least a little more interesting. They start playing some real players rather than just a series or 2. But you can follow us on Twitter at Beer30Football and me at FFCaptain22. We are now on YouTube, so if you want to see our beautiful faces and Wade's dogs and cats, follow us on YouTube. Hit subscribe on Spotify or wherever you're listening to us. Wade, you want to hit us with the old sign-off?
Take her easy, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
My gosh, and if she's easy, take her twice. Have a good one, y'all.